obviously you're playing tonight with your orchestra at the Jazz Festival, one of the prestigious halls, the Salle Wilfrid-Pelletiner Place des Arts. How do you feel about playing the Montreal International Jazz Festival?
So excited. I'm humbled and excited, thrilled, honored, and more than pleased. I mean, really, the largest jazz festival in the world. I've been passionate about music and jazz my whole life. I've told the story too many times, but I'll tell you again if you want. When I was young, I took lessons. Anyway, my teacher gave me a piece of jazz music, and that's when I really became a little more disciplined as a student. Sat and learned to play that thing. It was the first song he gave me was an arrangement to Alley Cat. You know how that goes? Go ahead. Kind of syncopated, more than the scales had been doing. Anyway, I sat, and then, of interest maybe to nobody, around 15, I got the bug of acting, and I had my heart set on doing that as a career. But around the same time, I loved playing the piano, and I started to get my mom. We had fake books around, which is now the real book, of course, and then my parents very wisely, because they gave all 4 kids lessons, they exposed us to lessons. My older brother did the little clarinet and this and that, but I had a facility for the piano. And then, like I say, I fell in love with jazz, and then I got it into my head that it would be cool and interesting to get the telephone book and get myself a gig in Pittsburgh, which has a big jazz history, but not that I knew that. But I called up cocktail lounges from the telephone book, and I got a couple of gigs. They said, who's this? No, we don't have a piano. No, here yet. But a couple of people said yes. And anyway, I started to play there. I forget what I started to talk about. But anyway, I went to New York after Pittsburgh and studied and fell into acting jobs miraculously, but always kept a piano around. I did a musical early on, Two Gentlemen of Verona. In the pit was Thad Jones. Believe it or not, my dad was a jazz fan. He had taken us, because we took vacations, to Atlantic City. I remember one time he said, oh, you know who's playing here on the Steel Pier or something? Thad Jones and Mel Lewis. They're a big band, so I went to see them. Anyway, I found myself in the pit on Broadway playing, for fun down there. Anyway, fast forward, I snuck it into a couple of movies like The Fly and Earth Girls Are Easy, thank you so much. And then about 30 years ago, Peter Weller, with whom I had done a Buckaroo Banzai, and I used to get together at our houses and play. He plays the trumpet, and he, believe it or not, I'm sure it's true, says he knew Miles Davis. And he talked to Miles Davis, and Miles said, oh yeah, I know Jeff. You guys should have a gig. You should start playing out and about. It'll be fun, play with other musicians. And that's what happened. We started to play, and then he went off and did other things. That group, about 30 years ago, developed, whenever I wasn't acting, into a band, so-called, and around LA, under the radar, we played. And then one year, at Hollywood Bowl, they asked us, the Playboy Jazz Festival said, come and play, and we gave ourselves a name. In a day, I thought, the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra. It's a joke, there were only 5 of us, but Mildred Snitzer was a friend of the family's in Pittsburgh. I thought that's a funny name, and it stuck. That's our name, and and the group has evolved till now. I think it's our best group. Oh, I know a landmark little event that I should tell you, but that I should remind you of, which is that I was promoting Thor Ragnarok in England, and I did the Graham Norton show. And the great Gregory Porter, with whom I had run into at an airport and gushed and said, oh, I love you. And he said, oh, I know you, was on that same show promoting his Nat King Cole record. And he was going to sing Mona Lisa. And he said, I've only done this with a piano player. Jeff, why don't you play with me? And backstage, we went through it once. Anyway, we played. Tom Lewis, the great Tom Lewis from Decca, saw it and said to himself, he says, hey, maybe I should do an album with Jeff. He came we met, and we talked about it, and we did our first album. And now we've done our 4th album, which is still blooming. It keeps getting better. I think our group is delicious, and that's the story.
So I can see, Jeff, that this is going to be really difficult. because he's got nothing to say.
I'm what you call a self-starter. I'm a self-starter.
So, I mean, did I even ask a question? Was there a question in there?
You did something. It's your essence. You opened me up like an oyster. I don't know what you did.
So you mentioned this thing about acting. I don't know if you still do that, but
I do. I'm in this movie Wicked, and it's musical. You know, it has some music in it. And I think Universal had something to do with the last release of that movie album, which did very well because it's got Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, and it's beautifully done.
With you on the album.
Yes, and I sing a little thing, and we have the second movie coming out in a little bit. But for which you'll see me yakking.
Is there anything in common between acting and playing jazz piano?
Good question.
That's why I get the big bucks.
Yes. Yes, there is. In my experience, yes. The short answer, I could go on too long, but the short answer is yes. In my experience, the passion that I have for both of them is adjacent. And then the studying that I did, luckily with the very good acting teachers, first of which in New York was Sanford Meisner, the cornerstone of his technique is an improvisational exercise. I have used that for the last several decades and have developed, built upon that. And of course, as you know, jazz is spectacularly, excitingly, deliciously improvisational. So they overlap. And then, the places in acting that music, all kinds of music, opens up in me when I'm acting, when I'm preparing for a scene, when I'm imagining what song is happening in me, sort of under a scene, or I ask a director, what is the score going to be like? Because I'm very affected by the music in a movie. That informs the acting. And music, as you know, improvised or not, is a communicated story, whether it has lyrics, whether it's a vocal or not, whether it's just, ta-ta-ya-ta-ta-ta. That's a story that I'm already telling you. So it's the same, it overlaps in acting that way. I'm still communicating something to land on the recipient. And music, as we know, opens up, hits you, can hit the human heart, soul, blood system, and nervous system like nobody's business, like nothing else.
Why the great love affair with the great American songbook? It seems to be something that's been there your whole life.
Hey, I can hold my head up and say that I've spent hours and hours and hours. I'm no expert. You probably know more than I do. But I have enjoyed my whole life spending hours just going through the fake books, and I know a bunch of songs. I'm kind of a jukebox on the set of Wicked. That's kind of how we spent our time. I should have been intimidated by those grand artists and musicians, but I just sang everything I could remember, and they sang with me, and that's how the subject came up of maybe recording with us. Wait, what you were saying? Wait, what your question was?
Great American Songbook.
Yes. So I love all those. I love all those songs. Oh, geez, those are.
Frank have a special place.
Who?
Frank Sinatra?
Frank Sinatra, absolutely. And yes, and the whole songbook and all those writers and those lyrics and those songs get to me in the deepest way. And Frank Sinatra, funny you should mention, the last book I read was this thing by, I'll bet you know it, James Kaplan wrote this 2-volumed biography of him, the first of which is The Voice, the second of which is The Chairman, and it goes in exhaustive but thrilling and fascinating detail about every aspect of his complicated personality and life and his genius and his musical genius. So yes, and now I'm catching up on and cherish many of his albums and listen to them as stimulation all the time and a tonic of one kind or another. And now I'm currently reading, I'm halfway through this book called Sessions, which is very interesting about how the recording technology came to be from whence it started until now, and how Frank particularly intersected with that so beautifully and importantly.
Last question before we open it up to everyone else. But is there one jazz piano player that's a big inspiration for your style?
if I was, so many people I like, Oscar Peterson, speaking of whom, and, Bill Evans and Keith Jarrett and many, Bud Powell. But the first album that I ever got at home, in my dad was a jazz fan, like I say, and he brought home Errol Garner Plays Misty. And if I had to say one, that was the first one, and it made a big impact on me. And to hear the unique talent of Errol Garner, who didn't read music ostensibly, but what a genius, and how he can make the piano sound like an orchestra, did things to me that are still hopefully taking root and blossoming.
All right, so how about questions? Anyone? Well, surely someone has a question.
Yes, yeah. You, Brendan. You pick them, Brendan. Where are you sneaking off to? Hey. Okay.
Over there?
Yes.
Hi, sir.
Yes. We have, it's so nice to meet you all. I know this is an august group. These are representatives of the cream of the crop.
Except for me, it's quite august.
Who?
Except for me.
No, you're super august.
You're great, Brendan.
Okay, yes.
No,
yes,
you're great, Dominic.
Thank you, Brendan. Hi, Jeff. I was just wondering, since we're all music fans here.
I'm sorry, I missed you. I was. What's your name and where are you from?
Dominic. I'm for La Presse here in Montreal.
Dominic Tardif, great writer.
Dominic, great writer from
La Presse, one of the main French language daily newspapers.
Yeah, I
deep
speak
respect.
French.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, since we're all music fans here, what's the best jazz concert you've ever seen in your life?
You actually have left him speechless.
Yeah, looks like
Well,
it.
that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. You know who I saw? Well, let me see. Wait a minute. Well.
We only have 30 minutes. So.
Okay. Well,
I don't want to rush you.
What comes to mind, a couple of things that come to mind. One is that, I did see Frank Sinatra live at my friend Bruno Kirby, with whom I'd done Between the Lines. He was an actor in Godfather 2. I'm sure you know. He said, he was a big fan of Frank Sinatra's, and he said, he's playing, I think this is in the 80s. We did a movie, we did Between the Lines in 76. Huh? Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Joan Micklin Silver directed it. Very good. So we became palsy, and he said, let's go to I think it was the Greek Theater or the Universal Amphitheater, one of those big places. And it was Frank in his later years. But I was there. I saw that. So, I wouldn't mind getting in a time machine and going back and revisiting that. Yeah, thank you.
The guy with the prince. No, where? Okay, we're
Is this working? Okay. It's Joanne Shervell from Forbes. Hello.
So wait. Say it again. Hello.
Joanne Shervell from Forbes.
Did you hear that?
Do
you know her?
Is this working?
No.
Tell me your name again.
Closer. There?
You go. That's
Is that better?
It was our fault entirely. It's a technical problem.
Joanne Shervell from Forbes.
From Forbes.
Yes. Forbes.
Forbes. Yes, of course, Forbes.
Yeah.
And your name is
Joanne Shervell.
Joanne.
Yes.
Hey, do you know that Tony Bennett song? When Joanna loved me, every
No, I
day
didn't.
was Friday, every
Nice.
day was the month was May. Okay, yes, Joanne.
So, of all the great musicians you've collaborated with, are there any that you'd especially like to work with again?
Excellent question. I'm glad you asked. Hey, there are people here at the festival. It's why particularly. I mean, who wouldn't be thrilled to be at this festival? It's important as it is. But we're here this year with Katie George. Ooh, I'd love to play with Katie George. How about Esperanza Spalding? She's here. Boy, if I could be here, we got to go to Chicago tomorrow, and play a gig there at the Chicago Theater. Otherwise, I'd stick around and be at every single show. But Esperanza Spalding, we talked a little bit back when she did that opera with Wayne Shorter. Oh, hey, that was an interesting evening that I spent too. I saw that opera that they collaborated on. What an achievement that was, and she's wonderful. It would be a dream to do something with her. Hey, Samara Joy is here. Samara Joy is at the festival. If I could do a song with Samara Joy, I applaud for her. Wynton Marsalis, for heaven's sakes, is here. What a trumpet player. I like that whole, I did enjoy that whole jazz documentary by Ken Burns, that he appears in a lot. He'd be great. His brother, of course, Branford, a sax player. That would be great. I'm looking at the other people here. Hey, you know who else is here? Well, I'd like to, I wish I could see that whole band doing the Oscar Peterson tribute, I recently was listening to Oscar Peterson's Canadiana suite, that Cut Wheatland, I'm sure you know, which starts off sort of classical and then swings like he does, is just spectacular. But Diane Reeves, legendary. Mavis Staples is here. I'd like to do. I'd enjoy doing something with all of them. That's the. Is that it? Yeah, that's the story.
That's the list.
Besides that, Leve and Jacob Collier are not here, but they're so inspirational and so unique and so much themselves and so authentic that I could have a whale of a time, trying to cook something up with them, off the top of my head. There you go.
Okay, so next question down the road there, and as it's gone so far, you better say your name clearly and the place. Or
'cause my hearing is not what it used to be.
It's all good. I'm Joe Kinzanger with Esquire.
Joe?
Yep.
Hello, Joe from Esquire. Esquire. Yes. Wow. Deep respect.
I was wondering, is there a place that you find stimulating to music right now?
A place?
Yeah. Is it Pittsburgh, New York?
Where music becomes particularly inspirational?
Like, in your creation of music right now, is there a place that you resort to, or you think of, that you find has a line throughout, the pieces that you're creating?
Has a place that what?
You mentioned Pittsburgh. Yeah, you mentioned Pittsburgh, New York earlier. So I was wondering, is there a place right now in your music process that you're going back to as you create?
Maybe that a place where you create music that works well for you, that's inspirational.
Well, any place, music is all around the world, and I'm still a humble student and a discoverer of and curious about world music and how music is made everywhere in places that I don't even know yet. But Pittsburgh, we know, has a history of things. It, of course, holds a place in my, subconscious and my dream heart, and, I associate it with, like I say, early passions and songs, and we've played there. We went back and played there, in fact. But New York City, my God, I moved there, and like I said, had a nourishing time of it, and what a history it's had, of course, musically, but and my own, like I say, musical experience there has been interesting. But being here, I mean, come on, this is the mecca and a throbbing heart of a fertile musical, treasure. So this place, of course. Where else? I like Brazilian music. I was, once in Rio, and, I love all that stuff. On our last album, it was Scarlett Johansson who said she wanted to do Out of the Tree of Life, just big, and she said she wanted to do it in Bossa Nova. And I'm crazy about that. I just did this, I voiced a character in this movie, maybe you saw it, by Fernando Trueba, who's very interesting, who did this thing called They Shot the Piano Player, about Tenorio, and I was a character investigating this real-life piano player who disappeared tragically, and da-da-da-da-da. He had done that animated, it was animated. He did this animated movie before called Chico and Rita. Did you see that, where they used Thelonious Monk's music? And that's interesting to look up. So he's in Madrid, of course, and Paris is where I did a movie with him. All over the darned world are places that, where you hear the rhythm of life and the vibration of people and the joy of, music,
Speaking of great places for music, fellow with a fantastic Prince T-shirt has the next question.
Hey, Jeff.
Prince, it's a Prince T-shirt? It's Prince. It says Prince?
Yep, 1999.
I saw Prince once, believe it or not. I was with, who was I with? Who plays Ant-Man? Paul Rudd. I was at some event with Paul Rudd. The two of us are chit-chatting away. All of a sudden something changed. The molecules in the room change. Something is happening, and And things go quiet, and we go like this, and we both see Prince kind of float in, and float by. We were silent as we watched him like that, and then we looked at each other and said, Prince, you know. In any case, yes.
Yeah, Ant-Man is one thing. Prince, the real superhero. My name is Mr. Wavy. I'm with OK Player. And Jeff, you know, this is the second time you perform at this venue, the first having been Just for Laughs about 9-10 years ago.
I was here, you know, I was telling somebody that I was here just for laughs. I don't remember that it was, I will when I see it. Oh, yes, we were here.
It was a gala.
It was what?
A gala.
It was a gala? Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, I'm just wondering, you have a rich history with Montreal. I'm wondering what some of your best memories here over the years would be.
I haven't spent enough time here. I was there for just a little bit. That was a delightful experience. You know, I love Canada. I love the entire country of Canada, and I love, I do, I swear. I'm not just making that up. My wife is from Canada. My wife's from Toronto. She was in the Olympics competing for Canada. She is passing on her French heritage. Her mom, who moved to Toronto from Nantes, helps take care of our kids, and we see all the time. She was just at the gig in Toronto where we were. Emily, unbeknownst to me, I realized later, is very devoted to passing on French culture to our two boys, 8 and 9. You know, they go to Lycée Française, and they speak now fluent French and Italian. But wait, what were you saying? What were you? Oh yeah, Montreal. So, but I was saying I love Canada. I made The Fly in Toronto, and I did a movie in Vancouver. You know, but besides Just for Laughs, I don't know. Somebody would have to remind me and jog my addled brain, such as it is, if I'd done more here. I think that's. I don't think I've. This is it. This is my real introduction to second introduction to the great city of Montreal.
And another question right at the back there.
Hi, Jeff. I'm Claude with sortiejazznights.com.
Something.
Claude from sortiejazz.com.
Sortiejazznights.com. So if you Google Sortie Jazz, that's the website devoted to the Quebec jazz scene.
I
All
see.
right.
Cole is your name. And
Claude.
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 It's a tricky one.
Claude. Ah oui, absolument.
All right.
Bien sûr.
Now that we got through that,
Oui.
tell me an artist, I think you've already said that already, but an artist that you would have really liked to play with, dead or alive, and why?
Well,
just one.
Just one. Okay. Besides the list that I
you can't. You're not allowed to go back to the list.
I will not go back to the list.
You can revisit one of those.
But I'm Canada that I've just now been gushing about is doing something to me. So you know what comes into my brain? Michael Bublé, Diana Krall. How about those two?
Good picks. Why?
Well, my God in heaven. Well, Michael Bublé, our rhythm section, Alex Frank, who is our creative director and one of the co-arrangers with Joe Bagg of all the tunes we have on this album and we're going to do tonight, and his rhythm section, Ryan Shaw on drums and Graham Decter, the great guitar player, performed on his last award, Michael Bublé's last award-winning album. Well, he's a wonderful artist, and talking about Frank Sinatra, he's if a torch hasn't been passed to him ably and beautifully, he's a delightful. I've never met him.
I thought you were going to go for the hometown thing and mention Celine. Celine Dion.
Oh, Celine Dion. Yes, absolutely. Why not? But then. Absolutely, but Diana Krall. I've always been crazy about Diana Krall. I've listened to her over and over again. I'm crazy about her. I've never met her either. Although one of the guitar players, Anthony Wilson, with whom we have played several times, is one of her regular band members. So I feel 6 degrees of.
And she has played many times at the Montreal Jazz Festival.
Well, that's
not this year, I don't think.
If for no other reason, I'm thrilled to be in her. Ectoplasmic leavings.
Okay, at the back there, question?
Hi, Marty from CTV News. Can you talk about your album that sits right there on your left?
Yes, still blooming. Thank you. Is your first name Marie?
Marty.
How do you spell Marty? Like Marty.
Martin.
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 Martin, like Martin. Martin, like Dean Martin. Like, c'est bon. Lovers say that in France. Well, what do you want to know about this? I'm very proud of it. We recorded this mostly at this lovely little artisanal home done studio that's very highly professional, but it's really a cozy little place where we hunkered down in Highland Park, not far from where I live, and Scott Gilman, it's run and owned by Scott Gilman, our saxophone player. So we made it there. We're very proud of several of the selections, of all the selections on it, but the singers on it, when I was doing Wicked, like I say, I started to sing, I don't know why I love you like I do, and Ariana Grande said, hey, why are you singing that? I said, well, I like, me, I like songs. She said, my grandfather sang that to me all the time. I said, we have this band, if you want to record with us. She said, yeah, I would. So we cooked that up, and then we said, Cynthia Erivo, my golly, as long as she's doing something, would you ever consider? She said, yes, I would. I'd like to. I know your band. Da-da-da-da. We started to think and said, well, she's British. Let me see that Vera Lynn recording of We'll Meet Again is important for World War II. I love how they used it at the end of Dr. Strangelove. We suggested it. She said, yes, absolutely. That's how that came about. And then Scarlett Johansson and I we've done a couple of Wes Anderson movies together. We were at the premiere for Asteroid City. We got to talking, about the band and the music. And she said, I'd like to record. I said, what? And she came up, like I say, with that idea, that song. And then she said, let's do it Bossa Nova. And that's what happened there. Maya Sykes, who does Stella by Starlight, is the fourth and last singer on the thing. And we've played with her a lot in our in LA. We had a residency, so she can sing anything. Anyway, I like what we did with Stella by Starlight.
Talk about the song you sing right at the end of the album. I love that one.
Do you really? Thank you so much.
I'm just saying that.
Well, Cole Porter, of course,
fantastic.
wrote from the American Sidewalk, wrote Every Time We Say Goodbye, and it's the end of this, so it seemed like the right way to send the listener off, and sometimes we've done, I don't know what we'll do tonight, but sometimes we've, at the end of these live gigs, allowed me to do that, and what a song. For instance, how about the writing of this? At some point he says, but how strange the change from major to minor, at which point the chords change from major to minor. I think it's very clever, and I'm deeply in love with it. And anyway, we sing that, and I love the arrangement that they came up with, and so there you go.
So, and it just happened this way, but every time we say goodbye, and this is how we end this conversation. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brendan Kelly. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. I'll see you tonight if you happen to be there. Tap me on the shoulder, and we'll do our best to give pleasure. Any what? Good. A call, Alex. A call for my rope tricks. I don't have it with me, but if I had that rope, I always enjoy doing my rope trick. Thank you.